Welcome back, coin collectors and treasure hunters. Today, we are looking at one of the most fascinating chapters in United States coin history, the 1943 Lincoln Wheat Steel Penny. If you have ever found an old gray-colored wheat penny in a collection, a coin jar, or an inherited box of coins, you may have wondered whether it is simply an ordinary wartime cent or something much more valuable. The 1943 steel cent is special because it was the only regular issue year in which the U.S. Mint produced Lincoln cents from zinc-coated steel. These coins were created during World War II when copper was urgently needed for military equipment. The U.S. Mint struck 1943 steel cents at Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, creating the no mint mark, D mint mark, and S mint mark versions. Let's get started first up the 1943 Lincoln Wheat Steel Penny with no mint mark, especially when a coin is found in damaged, daty, rusty, or heavily circulated condition. At first glance, this unusual silver-colored penny may look like an ordinary old coin, but the 1943 steel cent has a fascinating history and remains highly collectible. The Philadelphia Mint produced 684,628,670 regular 1943 steel cents without a mint mark, so the absence of a mint mark is completely normal for this issue. It does not automatically mean the coin is a rare error. The story of the 1943 steel penny begins during World War II. Copper was considered an important strategic metal because it was needed for ammunition, electrical equipment, and other wartime materials. To conserve copper, the United States Mint experimented with alternative materials and ultimately selected a zinc-coated steel planchet for the 1943 Lincoln cent. The result was a one-year regular issue design that looked dramatically different from the familiar copper wheat cents. The steel composition made the 1943 cent magnetic, and the coins quickly became recognizable because of their bright gray or silver appearance. The Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco Mint produced these steel cents, with Philadelphia, the no mint mark issue striking the largest quantity. The 1943 no mint mark steel penny carries the classic portrait of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the famous two wheat ears surrounding the words 1 cent and United States of America on the reverse. The most important feature for identification is its composition. Instead of the traditional bronze or copper alloy used on most Lincoln cents, the 1943 regular issue was made from zinc-coated steel and weighs about 2.7 grams. Because Philadelphia coins have no mint mark, you should not expect to see a letter below the date. A magnet can also help identify a genuine steel cent because the steel planchet is magnetic. However, collectors should remember that a magnetic test alone does not prove authenticity. Now let's talk about the most important part of today's video, rarity and damage condition. A damaged 1943 steel penny is generally not considered extremely rare simply because it is from 1943. More than 684 million Philadelphia examples were struck, and many survive today. However, collectors still have strong interest in these coins because they represent a unique chapter in American wartime history. The biggest problem is the steel composition itself. When the protective zinc coating becomes damaged or worn away, moisture can reach the underlying steel and cause rust, corrosion, dark spots, pitting, and discoloration. NGC specifically notes that preserving the appearance of these coins can be difficult because their reactive composition makes them vulnerable to corrosion. A heavily damaged example can therefore be much less valuable than a sharply struck, attractive uncirculated specimen. Scratches, holes, severe rust, cleaning, bends, corrosion, and heavy environmental damage can significantly reduce collector demand. Nevertheless, even a rough 1943 steel cent can be worth keeping because it is an important one-year type coin and an excellent historical collectible. The real excitement begins when a seemingly ordinary damaged coin shows something unusual, such as a genuine minting error, an important double die, an unusual planchet, or evidence that the coin may actually be one of the famous off-metal 1943 cents. Those situations require professional examination rather than guessing from photograph alone. So, what could a 1943 no mint mark steel penny actually be worth today? The answer depends heavily on condition, authenticity, eye appeal, and whether the coin has a recognized variety or error. For a normal circulated Philadelphia 1943 steel cent, values can be quite modest. NGC's current guide data for the regular 1943 issue lists circulated grades from only a few cents into the dollar range, while higher grade examples rise substantially in value. For damaged examples specifically, it is important not to confuse internet asking prices with actual auction results. A rusty or heavily damaged ordinary 1943 steel cent may bring only a small premium over face value, often around 10 cents to a few dollars, depending on how severe the damage is and whether collectors find the piece interesting. Cleaner circulated examples can bring more, while certified mint state coins can reach significantly higher prices. For perspective, PCGS auction records show ordinary 1943 Philadelphia steel cent selling for $43 at MS66, $48 at MS65, and $55 at MS66 in documented sales. At the very top of the market, the numbers become dramatically different. A virtually pristine PCGS MS68 plus 1943 steel cent sold for $33,600 at Stack's Bowers in November 2020. That result demonstrates that the huge values associated with 1943 steel cents are normally connected to exceptional condition, major varieties, or unusual errors, not an ordinary damaged coin. There are also spectacular prices for genuine error varieties. For example, a 1943 steel cent with a documented struck-through cap die error sold for $2,530 at heritage auctions. If you discover a 1943 no-mint mark steel penny, the first thing you should do is avoid cleaning it. Do not use vinegar, chemicals, polishing compounds, abrasive materials, or sandpaper to remove rust. Cleaning can permanently damage the original surfaces and may make the coin less desirable to serious collectors. Instead, handle the coin carefully by its edges and keep it in a dry, protective holder. Next up, look at the United States Lincoln Wheat Penny dated 1957 with a D mint mark, especially an example in fine condition. At first glance, this old brown Lincoln cent may look like an ordinary penny, but coins like this would be interesting pieces of American history, and certain varieties, grades, and exceptional examples can attract much stronger collector attention. The important thing to understand, however, is that the regular 1957 D Wheat Penny is not considered a rare coin in fine condition. Its value comes mainly from its age, historical appeal, condition, and collector demand, while extremely high-grade examples can bring dramatically higher prices at auction. PCGS records an auction price of $6,600 for an exceptionally high-grade 1957 D example graded MS67 plus red, showing just how strongly condition can influence value. The 1957 D Lincoln Wheat Penny was struck at the Denver Mint during the final years of the classic wheat reverse Lincoln cent series. The Lincoln cent had been introduced in 1909 and was designed by Victor David Brenner. By 1957, the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln appeared on the obverse, while the reverse displayed the famous two wheat ears surrounding the words 1 cent and United States of America. The Denver Mint produced approximately 1,051,342,000 examples of the 1957 D cent, making this a very large mintage rather than a scarce issue. The coin was made primarily of bronze, with a composition of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, and it weighs approximately 3.11 grams with a diameter of 19 millimeters. One of the easiest ways to identify this coin is by looking underneath the date on the obverse. If you see a small D, that indicates a coin was produced at the Denver Mint. The obverse features Abraham Lincoln facing right, with the inscriptions "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1957. Turn the coin over and you will see the classic wheat reverse, a design that makes these cents especially popular with collectors. A fine condition coin normally shows considerable circulation, with noticeable wear across Lincoln's hair and facial details, while portions of the wheat ears and lettering on the reverse may also show flattening. Because this particular issue was produced in enormous numbers, simply having a 1957 date and D mint mark does not make the coin extremely rare. Now comes the most important question. Is a 1957 D Wheat Penny in fine condition rare? Generally, no. More than 1 billion were produced, and a substantial number survived. PCGS estimates significant survival for the issue, while its rarity classification for ordinary examples is low. However, that does not mean the coin is worthless or uninteresting. Collectors building complete Lincoln wheat cent sets need examples from 1957, and many people enjoy owning coins from the final years of the wheat reverse series. Fine condition can also be attractive because the important design elements remain visible while the coin shows genuine evidence of circulation. The situation changes dramatically when you move into very high mint state grades. PCGS lists an auction record of $6,600 for a 1957 D-graded MS-67 Plus road, demonstrating that exceptional preservation, not ordinary circulation wear, is what can transform this common issue into a major auction coin. So, what could a 1957 D wheat penny in fine condition actually be worth? Current market references show that ordinary circulated examples are generally worth only a modest amount above face value, and some guides place fine condition examples in the cents to low dollar range depending on the exact grade, appearance, and marketplace. USA Coin Book currently lists an estimated value of about 6 cents in average condition, with higher values for uncirculated examples. Other market data places circulated 1957 D examples at somewhat higher prices depending on grade and sales platform. For comparison, price charting lists approximately $5.67 for VF, $12.80 for XF, and $39 for AU, illustrating how quickly the market can increase as preservation improves. At the upper end, PCGS records a remarkable $6,600 MS-67 Plus road auction result. Therefore, if your coin is genuinely fine condition with normal circulation, it should not be advertised as a thousands of dollars rarity. Its realistic value is usually modest, while exceptional high-grade specimens are the ones that can command much larger sums. If you discover a 1957 D wheat penny, the first thing you should do is examine the date and mint mark carefully. Look for the small d beneath the date and check whether the coin has unusual doubling, die characteristics, or other possible varieties. Also examine the surfaces under good lighting. Scratches, cleaning, corrosion, environmental damage, holes, or heavy discoloration can reduce collector appeal. Never aggressively clean an old wheat penny simply because it looks dirty. Cleaning can permanently damage the original surface and may make the coin less desirable to serious collectors. If your example appears unusually sharp, well-preserved, or potentially valuable because of a variety, consider having it examined by a reputable coin dealer or professional grading service before spending money on certification. In conclusion, the 1957 D Lincoln Wheat Penny in fine condition is an interesting piece of American history, but it is not normally a rare or high-dollar coin simply because of its date and D mint mark. More than 1 billion were struck, so ordinary circulated examples remain relatively common. The real excitement comes from discovering an unusually well-preserved specimen, an authentic variety, or an exceptional coin with qualities that separate it from the millions of ordinary survivors. While a fine condition example generally has a modest market value, the auction record for an extraordinary MS-67 road specimen reached $6,600, proving that condition can make an enormous difference. So, before you spend or sell your old wheat pennies, take a close look at the date, mint mark, condition, and overall appearance. You never know when an ordinary-looking coin might turn out to be something much more interesting. Next up, the United States wheat penny from 1945 with no mint mark, specifically one found in dirty or heavily circulated condition. At first glance, this old Lincoln cent might look like nothing more than a worn piece of pocket change, but coins from the 1940s can carry important historical value and, in certain grade or varieties, can attract serious collector attention. The big question is, how rare is a 1945 no-mint mark wheat penny, and what could one actually be worth in today's market? Stay with us as we explore its history, design, condition, collector demand, and realistic auction potential. The 1945 Lincoln wheat penny was produced during the final year of World War II. The United States was still deeply involved in the war, and millions of Lincoln cents were being manufactured to support everyday commerce. The no-mint mark version was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, because Philadelphia coins traditionally carried no mint letter. In 1945, Philadelphia produced hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents, meaning this particular date and mint combination is not considered rare simply because it is old. However, age alone is not the only factor that determines value. Condition, strike quality, surface preservation, errors, varieties, and originality can all make a major difference when collectors evaluate a 1945 wheat penny. One of the most recognizable features of this coin is a portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obvious. Lincoln faces right, with the inscriptions "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" surrounding his portrait, while the date 1945 appears below. On the reverse, you can see the famous two wheat ears framing the words 1 cent and United States of America, along with the motto E Pluribus Unum. This classic wheat reverse is one of the main reasons these coins remain popular with collectors today. The 1945 cent was struck primarily in a copper alloy, giving well-preserved examples a warm reddish color, although coins that have spent decades exposed to date, moisture, chemicals, or harsh environments may develop dark brown, gray, or uneven surfaces. Now let's talk about rarity and collector demand in dirty condition, because this is where expectations need to be realistic. A dirty 1945 Philadelphia wheat penny is generally not considered a major rarity. Millions were made, and circulated examples are still available to collectors. Date, scratches, corrosion, environmental damage, heavy wear, and staining usually reduce a coin's market appeal rather than increase it. A coin can be more than 80 years old and still have a relatively modest value if it has significant damage. Collectors typically pay much more for coins that retain original surfaces, clear details, attractive color, and minimal damage. That said, a damaged coin can still be desirable as an affordable historical collectible, especially for someone building a complete Lincoln wheat cent collection. When it comes to current market value, a circulated 1945 no-mint mark wheat penny in dirty or damaged condition will often be worth only a small premium over its basic collectible value. Depending on the severity of the damage, overall detail, color, and buyer demand, such an example might commonly trade for around 10 cents to 50 cents, with some better circulated examples potentially reaching around $1 or a little more. Heavily damaged pieces can sell for less, while attractive circulated examples can command more. The important point is that these are general market ranges rather than a guaranteed price. Auction results can vary significantly, and a coin should never be advertised as being worth thousands of dollars simply because it is a 1945 wheat penny. The situation changes dramatically if the coin is an exceptionally high grade or has a genuine mint error or recognized variety. Professional grading can sometimes reveal a coin with unusually strong preservation, sharp details, or other characteristics that separate it from ordinary circulated examples. High-grade 1945 Lincoln cents can bring substantially more than damaged examples, especially when certified by a respected grading service. However, viewers should be careful with online claims suggesting that every old wheat penny is worth hundreds, thousands, or even millions of dollars. Extraordinary prices are generally associated with exceptional condition, significant varieties, errors, are famous rarities, not ordinary dirty coins. If you have a 1945 no-mint mark wheat penny, the first tip is simple. Do not clean it aggressively. Scrubbing, polishing, rubbing, soaking in harsh chemicals, or using abrasive materials can permanently damage the original surface and potentially reduce its value. Instead, handle the coin by its edges and examine it under good lighting. Look carefully at the date, Lincoln's portrait, the lettering, the wheat ears, and the overall surface. If you notice unusual doubling, an apparent mint error, an unusual planchet, or characteristics that seem different from a normal 1945 cent, consider having the coin examined by an experienced numismatist or professional grading service. Another important collector tip is to compare your coin with reliable references and actual sold auction results rather than relying only on online asking prices. Sellers can list common coins for extremely high amounts, but an asking price does not prove that anyone is willing to pay it. Actual completed sales provide a much better indication of market value. For a dirty 1945 wheat penny, condition is especially important. A coin with heavy environmental damage should be evaluated differently from a naturally circulated coin that still has attractive original surfaces. So, is a 1945 no-mint mark wheat penny worth keeping? Absolutely. While an ordinary dirty example is unlikely to be a fortune, it is still an authentic piece of American history from the final year of World War II. Its value comes not only from its price but also from extreme rarity. Few cents to around $1 depending on its exact condition and collector demand. Better preserved examples, certified high-grade coins, and genuine errors or varieties can sell before spending that old wheat penny or throwing it into a jar of ordinary change. Take a closer look. You might not have $1 million treasure, but you could still be holding a fascinating survivor from 1945. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and tell us in the comments whether you have ever found a 1945 wheat penny in your collection.